Well, let's talk about these measures now. We're joined by Krish O'Mara Vignarajah, President and CEO of Global Refuge and former Policy Director for First Lady Michelle Obama. Krish, thanks for joining us here on BBC News. First of all, the issue of those in Afghanistan who had flights, who had appointments, who thought they were on their way to the US. What's going to happen to them now with these cancellations?
It's such an important question because it is something close to our hearts here at Global Refuge. Our organization has resettled about 24,000 Afghans since the Taliban takeover in 2021. And it's unclear exactly how many Afghans, will ultimately be affected. But what we know is that in recent times, there's been about an average of 1,700 Afghans who arrive through the refugee resettlement program each month. Afghanistan has been the #1 country of origin of people who come into this country through this humanitarian pathway. So it's incredibly disappointing because this program is one of the many ways that we honor our promise to Afghan allies who have been our allies of America's longest war.
What sort of message does this move send to the world about the US and its approach to humanitarian actions?
It's, I think, a very troubling signal. Because we know that when the U.S. Leads, that obviously other countries join and follow. The U.S. has been the leader of refugee resettlement, historically speaking, and I think at a time when we have an unprecedented number of refugees. No, the United States cannot do it alone, but it is part of a coalition. And so I think that's where, when the president talked about legal immigration and his support of it in the Oval Office, we obviously were grateful for those comments because I think it is important that the U.S. remain a welcoming nation. But to shut down refugee resettlement, to shut down a program where refugees go through the United Nations and the U.S. Embassy, they go through extreme vetting and health clearances, and only when they have gone through those approvals, which take years, are they admitted to the U.S. This is the gold standard of what it means to come the right way.
Now, that's a very formal process that you're describing there, and as you say, it can take years. What will happen now to people who decide to try and bypass that and just arrive themselves, be it into an airport or across a land border, seeking asylum, seeking refugee status in this country?
That's our concern. We worry that the executive orders that were signed will create a feeding frenzy for drug cartels, for human smuggling operations, because we know the desperation of the families that are fleeing for their lives. And so when you shut down legal pathways to the United States, what it does is play into the hands of cartels that have profiteered off of human desperation. And so, just thinking about the tragedy of this situation where people were hours away from coming to the U.S. after waiting through a grueling process, only to have the rug pulled from under them. I fear for what will happen to them.
Okay, well, I suppose we'll have to wait and see to a certain extent what lies ahead. Krish O'Mara Vignarajah, President and CEO of Global Refuge, thanks for speaking to us here on BBC News.
Thanks for having me.